Have you checked the children? Your little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil, Laird.
Robert Duell.
I'm in Fuego here.
And we are here to continue our review series for Hellraiser with Deader.
What a title.
And this is one of the toughest sits of the series, to be honest. I was not a big fan of this one. What I will say is that what I'm finding is continuing with these, well, now that I've finished them all, what I found continued with all these movies is that every one of these Hellraiser movies is a different kind of movie with the Hellraiser mythos plugged into it. That's not to say that they were all written as other movies first, even though that was the case with some of them. But one thing that you cannot say is that this is not a Jason Friday the 13th thing where every movie is exactly the same. Every movie in this series is a little bit different after the fourth installment. And so I think that there's something to be said for that. And I think there's, and that's honestly where some of these movies that would otherwise be complete bastardizations of cinema are going to win points from me. And so I actually think that the concept of Deader is interesting, but it was just executed so poorly. So I think that's what I have to say. I think I like the concept of it, but I think it was executed so poorly that the concept is completely wasted. So that's my overall thoughts.
Huh. I didn't like this movie, honestly. The only thing that really made it a Hellraiser movie was Doug Bradley and the Xenobites, personally. I didn't care for the backstory with the ancestor and everything like that, and basically
The descendant of Le Marchand.
Yeah, and then his Deader crew and things like that. It's like the only reason, it's only named Hellraiser just on because of Doug Bradley and them. Other than that, I had nothing to do personally with really much of any of the actual, it did, again, with one of the characters and everything was a descendant, but that was the only thing that actually had anything to tie with it, really. This movie was a complete waste, personally.
Fair enough. Fuego?
I didn't hate this as much as Robert, but I mean, it's not anything terrific by all means. I have a soft spot for Carrie, our lead in this.
Sliders.
Amongst various other things, and she's known
I
to
knew
show
I knew
her
her from somewhere.
She's known to show her tatas in a lot of the lower budge direct-to-video
Points.
stuff that she made, and that is the case in this as well. I actually kind of dug the whole cult versus Cenobites sort of thing that they go about in this plot-wise, but this was another retrofitted script.
This was
one,
retrofitted.
Yeah,
okay.
I was reading on the Wikipedia. This was another one where they just kind of tried to wedge in the Hellraiser lore and turn it into something it was not originally intended to be. So it's not good, but it's more bearable than some of the other entries in this. So,
I think it might be the least pinhead of any entry.
For sure.
That's most definitely. Yeah, they just basically used him as a marketing thing for the movie.
Yeah,
and it's
I
still
think
pooped.
3 separate scenes that amount to less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, literally. Yeah.
Yeah, and a confrontation, really, and that's about it.
Yeah, I included that.
It was a very,
As one of the 3
very
scenes. Yeah.
disappointing confrontation.
Yeah. So, Fuego, you kind of touched on it already, so hit the story and then we'll go through our thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I never have known how to pronounce her last name, Carrie Wurer. Anyway, she is a journalist that is sent on an overseas...
Carrie Wurer.
Something like that. Yeah, but Babe Status Lady is sent on a journalistic investigation mission overseas. What country did they go?
Romania!
Yes, exactly.
It's just said Romania, but they're not actually in Romania.
Of course not.
But they're actually she's investigating this presumed cult, and she kind of dives into the situation. She becomes afflicted over the course of it, and they're
essentially a flatliners cult.
Yeah,
called
exactly.
Deaders.
yeah, and also they claim to be able to, in cases of death, because there's this woman who gets shot in the head at one particular time.
Not gets shot. She's herself.
Yeah, that's right. I couldn't remember the exact specifications of it, but yeah, there is powerful allegations that they can in fact bring people back from the dead in far more serious situations.
There's video footage of it.
Yeah, and so Carrie's character gets herself caught in this web of intrigue, so to speak, and then she starts having...
I like that, this web of intrigue.
Yeah, but she's having these hallucinogenic situations, like and also like the bit in the bathroom, the blood and all that stuff.
That's
the
the thing.
stab
Like
scene?
the effect of what happens to you after you do their ceremony was what was interesting to me.
That was the
like
only
they're
part I
all
found
called
fascinating.
deaders, and you're like, this is a stupid name. But when you realize what they do and what happens to them, it actually makes a lot of sense. And again, it makes sense now that you say that this is one of the retrofitted ones, because that's obviously, this was probably like, what if we just did Flatliners a different way? And then someone else saw the script and was like, what if we added Pinhead in there?
We gotta hold on to those rights, man.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, it was an interesting enough story. I'm gathering now that it was the least Hellraiser part of the story that was interesting. But, you know, again, the interest and the intrigue of the movie was just completely wasted by bad acting, bad progression of the story, and
that's where I could see why Robert would hate it so much, being such a fan of the series and
I am.
Pinhead and his cronies and everything. The fact that they're an afterthought.
it's like,
in
look,
this,
you don't rent my Pinhead for this crap.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you didn't find any fascination in the big chunk of the story, you're probably gonna hate this movie. So
yeah, and that's honestly where it really lost me. Is like you were saying earlier, is the Pinhead lore was so cherry picked, and then basically there's like, I don't even like what I took. No, I'm just gonna redo it. That's basically what they did, and again, they just threw the Hellraiser name onto it just for a fan base and just kind of a kickback almost.
This was the first installment.
Let's hope this works.
Well, I guess we'll get to it in the makeup effects. But go ahead, Fuego.
No, I was just gonna say. Lastly, this did have one of the more undeserved endings, in my estimation, as far as like the character of our lead character and what ends up happening. You know, with you know, with what goes down. Now I'm thinking I don't want to spoil stuff, but yeah, it was one that actually I felt bad. So yeah, in any event.
Yeah, it's just a.
She did it to herself to a degree.
To a degree.
All right.
Yeah.
You remember how the opening scene? She wasn't having good judgment.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. She wasn't the most savory character. Okay.
No.
So it's not the most well shot movie. It's not. No. It's nothing to write home about there. The music and the sound effects aren't really anything to write home about. But it's a Hellraiser movie. Let's talk about the effects. No. They were bad at times, because this was when digital was trying to overstep its bounds, and from the first time that Carrie's character interacts with the box and these CG chains come out and attach themselves to her face, and like she's like pulling against them, and you could just tell it's all done in post, and it just looks just god awful.
Well, even you can even see the seams on the prosthetics around her lip.
Well, for the one bit of practical they used,
for that shot and everything, but it's like it's like
like the head-on was practical.
Attention to detail on your damn makeup, all right?
The head-on was practical because the chains are pulling her this way.
Yeah.
And then all the side shots where the chains are coming right out of the box are CG.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't match, guys. It
Sticks
doesn't match.
out like a sore thumb.
And then the actual Pinhead makeup, again, the colorization of his face is weird. So it doesn't work well with me because he doesn't look like alabaster Pinhead like he should. No. And the makeup effects are just kind of trash in this. However, it must be said that this is the first time I noticed Gary J. Tunnicliffe's name, who is the director of Judgment. Oh. And he did the effects of all the movies between this and Judgment. Because he did Hellworld as well.
He did.
And then I believe his name was on Revelations somewhere as well.
Well, he was trying to direct Revelations at one particular point, and they just fast-tracked it over, 2 weeks, and we'll get to that film.
We'll get to that,
but
yeah, I mean, even the effects are just not.
Now that you say that,
it.
it makes a lot more sense.
With how terrible that movie is, we'll get to it.
Anyway, so the effects were nothing that saved the movie by any stretch.
No. This is honestly it's again, if you're wanting to watch the entire franchise of Hellraiser, sure, but this one, personally, you could actually skip and go into Hellworld, and you'd be 100% fine.
You can technically skip Hellworld because it's not really part of the continuity either.
True,
Ultimately,
we'll get to that one on that review and everything. But no, he's right in everything, and especially with when you find out that the ending sequence.
after 4, nothing is necessary.
Yeah,
Quite
and that's
frankly.
because everything at this point, or at least from that point onward after
The
4,
in-between
it's
stories.
each anthological, just its own kind of story, like they did in some of the comic book entries. You know, just their own little separate, self-contained sort of scenario.
And here's what I've found with parts 5 through 7 is that if you're doing a Hellraiser anthology, they don't need an hour and a half each. do an
it's getting more to,
hour-long
like,
episode
80,
at the most.
yeah.
Because it all feels too long.
shit,
It all
dude.
feels too excess fluff.
Well,
And
Revelations and everything like that. That was only maybe an hour and 12.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it
15.
literally was.
If you
And
include credits,
and
again, I think that story actually works in a Hellraiser anthological sense. So we'll get to that too.
Could have been a 45-minute
and that's
movie,
why
but
Hellworld was
Could have been a
almost
perfect
100
episode of a
minutes.
show, couldn't it?
It could have.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So we'll
But
get
hey,
to it.
if you want to see Carrie Wooring covered in blood, naked, I mean, hey, I was
Sliders,
get it.
sliders
I was at least up for
nostalgia
that,
and
so.
shit like that, you know.
If you ever want to
She had a
get
run.
the image of what many of us have felt like being stabbed in the back, then you'll definitely get that as well. So
I'll at least say like some of that was kind of cool and everything, and like the deader makeup and everything once the we already know the corpse comes back and everything.
transitioning.
Yeah, that was better well done. Better well done.
better well done.
Yeah. That's basically how I
Hashtag.
how
It's
I
like
feel
when you
about
get 2
this.
steaks that are well done and one of
Yeah.
them is just a little bit better.
A little bit better, yeah. It's just that cherry pick.
What do you
know?
want to bet this movie was originally called Deaders because it was an homage to
Yeah.
Flatliners, and then they just retrofitted Hellraiser and just called it Deader because this was such
I
a
could
cheap
see it.
There's a high
Flatliners,
likelihood.
you know.
He should
Anyway,
breathe in
they were
and
like,
out the
what
whole
if
time."
after the guys in Flatliners died, then they couldn't be killed? Like, that was some high dude's
Slightly
idea for the movie.
You got Oliver
Once
Platt,
upon a time.
Platt just fucking running around like a chubby little fucking dead zombie.
So, I think that's
wanna
pretty much
revisit
going to
that
do it for
movie.
our
It was a good-
thoughts.
it was a good movie.
I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it. That's our thoughts on Hellraiser Deader. We're going to now record our review on Hellraiser Hellworld as we get towards finishing up this series. So, thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Robert Duell.
And Gracias a Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay
Don't
scared.
watch this movie.
Eh.